Well, the thing is that your intuition and your discernment is going to break your heart most of the time. And that's what people really is like. I don't think they lack intuition, I think, or in discernment. I think they lack the ability to hold the emotion of what your intuition and your discernment is going to tell you. And so rather than put it in yes and no's, allow the universe to tell a story in front of you.
I'm here to trigger you because the truth is, spirituality isn't just about light and love. It's about standing in your power, cutting through the noise, and owning the shifts you know you need to make. You don't need another feel-good message. You need clarity, strategy, and activation. This isn't about waiting for alignment to hit you. It's about creating it, moving through the chaos, and stepping into your highest timeline. If you're tired of self-doubt, tired of playing small, and you're ready to finally trust your intuition, welcome to At Spiritual Speed, a podcast for enlightenment. This is season 2 finale of At Spiritual Speed. And I'm really excited to be wrapping up season 2, obviously. But to be wrapping it up with you, I'm super just like you said earlier before we press record that you're like, I don't know about doing podcasts. So I'm so honored and so just very, very grateful that you're wrapping up season 2 for us. This is Sarai of Halo House here local in San Diego. So give us a little intro about Halo House and yourself.
Thank you, Fernanda, for having me here as your season 2 finale guest. No pressure.
No pressure.
So yeah, I've never done a podcast. I'm very scorpionic in that way. But I want to start to break out of that shell, not to be so fixed in that privacy. And because I push my clients, right, to do that, to show up. And so I feel like I've shown up in a certain layer and now I'm like being invited to push through a different layer. So those are my intentions I'm setting out loud because I'm big on that.
Yep, I love it.
Sarai. It's like Sahara with an I at the end. It's Hebrew. I am not Hebrew. A lot of people ask me that. But yes, I am the founder and owner of Halo House, and Halo stands for Healing Alchemy of Love and Oneness. It is a modality that I use in my healing, whether it's like an actual healing with people on the table or participating in sound baths, or if I'm opening space to do a reading, whether that's tarot or mediumship or however spirit, energy, vibration, frequency wants to show up. And I'm not really sure where to start, but other than to say that, like most healers, if we want to use that word, I like to use the word guide or, yeah, I guess guidance, the microphone. I like to say I'm like a microphone to the ethers or a bridge.
Yeah.
Um, like it was birthed out of necessity for myself. Like I was going through a lot of a hard time managing the frequencies around me, the energy, and it was manifesting in ways that I felt like I was going insane.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very disconnected. I felt very like I didn't belong, like I couldn't connect to my friends, to my family. And it kind of catapulted me into like a very, very deep depression. And my background is in law, in the legal field. And so I'm very like type A, like 1 + 1 = 2. You go from A to B to C. And what I was starting to realize was that 1 + 1 didn't equal 2 anymore. And I was trying to go from A to B and I was ending up in M. And I couldn't understand why. And so I, I don't know how deep we're going to get into
Oh, we're
my
gonna go deep.
journey. We'll go deep. We'll go very scorpionic
Yeah.
deep. But just to kind of highlight some like timelines here, it it got to the point where like I had to like look in the mirror and understand that there had to be a higher calling trying to speak to me. Otherwise, none of it made sense. None of it. And I probably would have given up had I not already. I was a mom. I was I had a baby, and I probably would have given up in my journey at that point, meaning like I would have off myself. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word of how depressed I was. Um, but I said, okay, let me give this like another try. Let me I understand that I was born in the way that I was through my family and through that portal. And I was introduced into this avatar with all these different rules and guidelines, and I've done very well with them. And at that point in life, I was very successful, very happy, and no complaints. Everything that I worked for, I obtained. And now that I was hitting a wall, I said, okay, well, let me start with some new rules. I don't know anything, and everybody is correct. Everybody's right. And I started to like manipulate my thoughts in that way so I could get out of like this emotional rut that I was in. And slowly and surely, that started to like magnetize people into my reality, like healers and psychics and very esoteric experiences that are unexplainable to this day. And that slowly got me into like, okay, um, there's something a little bit more deeper than this. And my scorpionic energy was intrigued. So timeline around that happened around, I call it like the beginning of the end was around 2012. But by that point, I was already doing tarot readings for 2 years.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so I had already been introduced to energy in that form. However, I lacked the discipline to do tarot readings. I had learned like the intuitive nature of it, but I didn't understand how I needed to root my energy. I didn't understand how I needed to be discerning and that I was actually opening up more layers of energy and to the point that I got to a meltdown. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what ended up happening. So when my gifts only got stronger and my prayers didn't take them away, I said, okay, well, I am going to make this contract with the universe that I want to be the best at this for myself. Like, if I need to show up in this space and be a healer, a guide, all these words, then I want to be like the very, very best. And hence, the training started from there. And like very disciplined. Like I trained for many, many years with many mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And so through that, I believe everyone's a teacher. I met people that I'm like obsessed with the way they hold space. And then I met people who like I would never in life hold space that way. And then I met people who did like, oh, I like that. But I don't like this, right? And ultimately what it was doing is chiseling my ability and how I could show up, right? Everyone was a teacher. And I'm gonna fast forward a little bit, but and specifically to how like Halo, like the name started.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at a studio in San Diego, and we were gonna have an event. And at that point, I was already renting space. I was already doing healings, but I didn't have a name to it. And they said, "Well, we need to promote you. What is it called?" I was like, "Well, it doesn't have a name. Just put my name. Just say put energy healing." And they were like, no, we need a name. And in that moment, I heard Halo. So I just said, oh, I do Halo. And they were like, oh, okay. So they wrote it down. And then the next day, they knocked on my healing room and they said, oh, by the way, what does that mean? And I didn't know what it meant. And I remember just taking a breath and I looked at her and I said, oh, it stands for Healing Alchemy of Love and Oneness.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very like I was told.
Mm-hmm.
So from then on, it really having a tool belt, like the halo representing a tool belt for me, really allowed me like the freedom to explore and know that I didn't have to hold on to all the energy all the time. I didn't have to hold on to all the teachings. Now, what people call the Akasha that you
Mm-hmm.
have to go up to was now literally around me all the time. And instead of like meditating and trying to travel, it was right there in front of me.
Wow.
And so as a result of that, I started playing with that. Like, how can I increase my library? And so every time I've had a session with someone, I open Halo and I pour. their medicine and their poison into this. And so over time, I've developed like a energetic pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
So, gosh, I feel like I'm talking a lot. So interrupt me at
No,
any
I am
point.
like zoned into I'm like
Okay.
picturing everything.
I'm like, I'm gonna look at this back and be like, I didn't follow like the right
But I
order
love
of
it.
things. So, COVID happens and the world shuts down, and I loved it. I was one of the few people that loved
Yeah,
the,
me too.
like, I was like, oh my gosh, it gave me time to really root into my medicine, the world slowing down in so many ways. And it got me thinking, like, how does my reality look like when the world opens up again?
Hmm.
And I thought, like, I really would love a space where I can have healings and then also have the pharmacy of sorts connected to Halo. And
Hmm.
so I wanted a space where everything that came into my vicinity was touched by me, was prayed over by me, had an intention, make sure the crystals were activated and cleansed, make sure the oils were pristine, make sure the teas were activated for the chakras, and even to the point of like the clothes, like what emblems would I put in the clothes? Like I don't want to wear brands. I
Hmm.
don't want to like I'm like how can I make things smarter? And within like 6 months of that thought, like Halo House became an opportunity for me to open. And then Halo House opened. Not 6 months later, but the build out started
Hmm.
from there. And yeah, it was very like an organic process. Like it was very much like a seed was planted and then I was taken there. A seed was planted and then I was taken there, which proved my point of like 1 plus 1 doesn't equal two. A doesn't always lead to B, right? And these quantum leaps that I was taking were because I was like being picked up energetically and being dropped off. I just didn't know that.
Hmm.
And so all those times where I was like experiencing the density, it was, and like the disconnection was by design because I was being uplifted in different ways. Um, I just didn't know. So through that process, I definitely learned a lot about like my energy, the biology, like the mental bodies, the emotional bodies, and here we
Hmm.
are.
It's like a big message I got yesterday was recalibration. So it's like
Mm,
you went through these recalibrations to get to where you are, and there is very little resistance in that space. And like you really went with the flow and the surrender. Like I have surrender tattooed on me because I'm always trying to like let it go without leaving claw marks. And you really just you did it right. You went, well, what is the right way, but you went with the flow, and that is the trust within yourself and spirit is so beautiful.
thank you. And also, I love that you think that based on maybe I just because I cherry coded my story. But I'll share what happened one night. I at that time I was working with this was 20, I want to say it was 2016. I was working with two different healers. They were I would spend 8 hours with them
Wow.
every Sunday. And they didn't know each other. It would be every other Sunday, every other Sunday. And I felt like I had hit like a wall because like the questions that I had, they couldn't answer. Like for example, my body would like involuntarily shake. And what I know now what was happening is that my chakras were spinning faster than my body knew how to hold them. And so I didn't know that. And so I would come to them and they're like, well, we don't know, but it was very Mr. Miyagi. If you do this, then we'll come back next week or in 2 weeks and then we'll talk about it. So I'm like, okay. So because I felt that I wasn't getting better, I had asked them if they would both meet with me at the same time because I thought maybe if they met each other and they both had a plan for me, then I would get out of this, like what was happening to me,
Hmm.
this depression, this anxiety. And they refused. They said no, that they wouldn't work with anybody. And I was like, okay. So I waited. And like a month later, I tricked them and I made them both come to my house. And I thought because this is what I needed, I need both of them here. To see their disappointments in their faces, like at me, was very like, I could still feel that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But they said, okay, we're here. And they talked to me. And I remember when they left, I felt worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I, in this very room over here, there's a mirror. And I remember I went down in front of the mirror on the floor to pray. I closed my eyes, and within seconds, I felt my knees almost like sink into the earth. I opened my eyes and I looked down. I'm like, what is this? And I felt like buzzing all over my entire body. And then my body rose up. I'm still on my knees. My body rose up, and then my hair just tilted like this. And I couldn't move. I'm just like this at an angle. And then I felt this energy shoot right into my third eye, and I seizured for about maybe 3 minutes. In that time, I was like, am I dying? Is this like like a seizure, like a heart attack? Like I didn't know, right? And all I could think of was I couldn't speak,
Mm-hmm.
but I could open my eyes and I could see myself like in
Yeah.
convulsions. And I said, okay, well, let me just like in my mind, like hymn church songs. Because to me, I was thinking like something bad's happening and
Mm-hmm.
I need to do the alternative and like think of hymns. And 3 minutes later, it stopped. And all I can think of, the only way I could describe it is that moving forward, my life was in color. I didn't know that up to that point, everything had been black and white, to the point that even like I could see like the edges of a table so defined. Somebody would be talking to me and they would stop talking, but I could still hear them.
Wow.
And and that's actually made it worse for me. And it was like this catch 22 because I was like, wow, there's just this beautiful thing. Like, how is this happening? I had the consciousness of that. And then I had the like consciousness I'm not having any support of understanding and me going back and forth through that. And so that's when I said, okay, I prayed and I received this. Now I'm going to pray for it to take it away. And so for 3 months, I prayed every single day religiously. And the only thing that happened, Fernanda, is that it got stronger. The gifts got stronger. And so that's when I was like, okay, now I know that I cannot resist.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was my point of surrender.
Wow.
But
It's those dark nights of the soul. And,
Mhm.
we talk, and I love how there's such a beautiful awakening right now with the spirituality. And it's a lot of what was taboo isn't taboo anymore. It's more okay, right? So a lot more people are getting into this space. And I'm a firm believer in letting people know and not, I don't want to sound like negative Nancy, but it's like the spiritual awakening, it's very intense and it can get very ugly because there's a lot of accountability. And you talked about a mirror, like talk about looking in a mirror at yourself and seeing, I'm not a victim, I'm a volunteer. And that's like that's it's a tricky one to say because there's certain abuse that you are a victim. And but at the end of the day, you're volunteering to keep telling that story. You're volunteering to not heal anymore. So you're a victim or you're a volunteer. Like, what are we going to do? Are we going to move forward? But to get to where you're at, it takes a lot of heavy work it's the shadow work. And I know you do readings and you do numerology and all the fun stuff that can really, you can get the cheat codes from it, if you will. So when you see someone going through a similar experience to what you went through, what is something that you would tell them that could be their shining light in those moments?
Oh, that's a good question. And yes, thank you for all that you shared. I agree. Like, I love that you said, like, you could be, like, you can choose what V, right, you want to
Mhm.
step into.
Yeah.
Going to that mirror space, and I was just talking about this week in a reading that I gave. I said, a lot of people look in the mirror and they see things on their face. And in normal life, you would see, like, oh, look in the mirror and you scratch your face. But what I noticed is that most people want to scratch the mirror.
Mm.
And so that little turnaround is the hardest.
Yeah.
The going back to myself, right? Just to focus on me. Um, and I spend a lot of time like going over that.
Mm-hmm.
And because it doesn't matter what I say, and unless, see, there's orbs around you. It doesn't matter what I say until like that type of understanding can be received. Like the accountability is a big thing. So
Mm.
I go into it like, how can I be a support to your accountability? How
Mm-hmm.
can I help you move and unpack the things in your room and put as much stuff in the table as possible? We're
Absolutely.
not going to get it all done today, and I'm not your hero, and I don't want to be your hero. And I'm not going to talk to you about things that you're not ready to receive. And I'm going to tell you no a lot. But let's do a plan together and let's slowly unpack all these things that I'm seeing around you.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, like it's less about what I say and more in about making them feel safe, understood, and seen, but
Yeah.
also maintaining like a strict discernment of boundaries. So
Mm.
I'm really, really focused on creating the container. Like, hey, you're you're drowning. You feel like you're drowning, but you're really drowning in a cup of water.
Mm.
And let me show you that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but because it's everyone's going to be so different, but it's always doing, I always want to create the safest, strongest container possible.
Yeah, it's definitely unique to everybody. And being able to create a space where people don't feel judged. And because you got to pour your guts in these situations and you got to be okay with being like, I'm gonna tell you my sins, so sharpen your knife, like that Hoser song is such a beautiful line. And it's to have the trust, but also that's a reflection of you. Because for someone to see you and to be in your space and to be like, okay, I feel comfortable enough to be that vulnerable says a lot about you, as much as it does about them.
Oh,
So in your sessions, because you do numerology, right?
mm-hmm.
I love numerology, and I met Sarai through Natalie, and Natalie is a numerologist, and I met Natalie through my cousin. So just the way that you and I found each other, and the fact that I moved to San Diego is just it's the divine synchronicities. I just love them so much.
I
But
love that. I actually totally forgot that. Yeah, that's how we connected through Natalie.
yep, and I just happened to move out here like a little less than a year ago. So it's so random. And readings, I remember my friend Lenice and I went in to go buy some stuff at the shop, and her and I got some bracelets. And you gave me like a little on the spot reading, and you were like, you mentioned something about like an ancestor and them like reading a paper in the morning and like drinking coffee and getting messages. And I was like, literally, I do that. That's my thing. It's like you can't see my desk, but it's like my coffee, my book, and I write down so many messages I get in the morning. So what is the process like of, because I love talking to other intuitives. We're all intuitive at the end of the day, but people that are doing this on an intentional business level, if you will. And how do you see energy in people?
Oh, that's a good question. It's like gonna vary. Um, so I also want to say that anything I say, there's always going to be an exception, right?
Hmm.
Nothing I say is a golden rule.
Yeah.
I like to be clear about that. For the most part, I I start to feel something first. And over time, I have coded like my body to know what that feeling is. Like if I feel it here, it's probably a great aunt. If I
Mm.
feel it here, it's a maternal grandmother. If it's here, it's a father that's passed. And so in that way, with regard to like, for example, mediumship. And then the next layer would be, is this am I supposed to, I go through my own like a 2 man, am I supposed to say something to this person? And now I already made the rule that if you're coming into Halo House and you see me, best believe I'm just going to tell you something. Like I should put that cycle warning, um, because it's just like a microphone for me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I will see people's auras. It's going to help me focus on a part of the body, and it's just like a like a knowing. It's
Hmm.
it's a knowing. And so that's like the initial meeting, especially like if you touch something like a crystal and then I touch it, it's like a download.
Oh.
Like now I'm listening, now I'm receiving part of your story. So it that's just like the energy part of it. Breaking down into more like specifics, like going more into like numerology. So what I just described would be more like the feminine part, right?
Hmm.
More of a flow. But going into numerology and tarot, I actually feel like that's more masculine, because there's more rules with that. And so I every card is assigned a number. Every number has a vibration and a frequency. And so it gives me a roadmap when I look at someone's, like, even if you tell me your name, like immediately, like I'm starting to calculate the numbers. I'm like, oh, she's a 7 or she's a 9. Um, or I was born in October. Oh, okay, like that gives me information. Um, and then all of a sudden, like I start receiving a story. And it could be in this now moment, it could be a past life. And I loved like I when I met you and Leo, right?
Hmm.
And like seeing like your connections and your numbers, it's like, oh, that makes sense. Like you were sisters in another lifetime. Like so um it flows and everyone's gonna be different. Like you're a reader.
Hmm.
So your third eye is going to introduce itself to me very strongly, like right off the bat. If someone comes in, like maybe they're in like the healthcare department or something, like they're a nurse or a doctor, their heart chakra is going to introduce themselves to me.
Oh.
So it's really going to be a lot of like what they do and how they present their energy to me.
Wow, that is so interesting. I love the way that you explain that. I love hearing, like I said, because we all see it in our own beautiful, unique ways. And I like how you have your different areas in your body. I like to say that I have like my own dictionary, if you will. And like when I do readings, like spirit works at lightning speed. Like we can't even compute how fast it translates on the other side. So I have like this big old dictionary of all my stuff, and like in zero point 0.1 second, they go through the entire thing and they download everything that we know, right? So it's like people are like, "How do you know? How can you do that?" I'm like, "It's them." Like you said, you described it as a microphone. I say that I'm a speaker, and I'm like, there's a writer, a composer, a producer on the other end, and I'm just a speaker that, shoots out the music. So,
Yeah, well, and to your point, I love how you said that, like the dictionary and how it's like literally it's instant.
mm-hmm,
Um, And that was why one of my rules at the beginning was I don't know anything and everybody's right.
mm,
Because what that did for me was to let the universe know that I'm open to receive, tell me, like from up here, but from right here, I'm not going to argue with anybody because
mm-hmm.
they're right.
Yeah.
So it already removed two veils for me immediately the moment that I accepted those two things.
Mm-hmm.
And so for like whoever is going to listen to this and is interested in like developing their gifts more, those are the kind of things that to play with.
Yeah.
Like, the vision of that is very, very important. And it helps.
I agree. I'm a big believer. For me, I always say, always a student, never a master. Like we master things, we learn to a very high level, but I'm always like, I just want to learn it all and I just want to soak it all in. And then on the other side of that, there could be a lot of ego, and ego is not a bad thing. Like we need it to survive, right? On both spiritual and physical sides. But there's a lot of like, this is the right way. You have to see it this way. This means this. And for me personally, a big angle I come in is with who am I to say what is the right way? And I think you said it in the beginning where you're like the golden rule, I believe the way that you said it. And it's like, this is what works for me. This is the way that I translate energy and I do readings. What works for you is going to work for you. I'm no one to say what's set in stone and what is law. And there's a lot of that right now with the big upturn of social media spirituality. And again, it's beautiful that a lot of us are tapping into this space. but I talk to a lot of people that have been like talked down to. I get a lot of because I do a lot of pop-up markets and I get a lot of people that are like, I was scared to get a reading because I've gotten a reading before and they almost mocked me. One girl cried after, not in a good way, because I make a lot of people cry, but in a good way. Like, because my daughter's always at tables with me when I do readings, and she's sitting
Mm.
there with the tissue just like holding it out because she already
Wait,
knows.
how old is she?
She's about to be 14 in a couple
Oh
days.
my God. Does she read?
Oh, that kid is powerful. She doesn't read, but she during one market,
I
she
saw it
she
already.
she was like, "Who's sitting at your chair?" Because I have like the regular table and then my chair where I do the readings and the desk in the back or the table. And she was like, "Someone's sitting in your chair." And I was like, "Describe her." She described my Nana. She's never seen her because she passed away a while, way before she was born. She described her, the hat that she was known to wear that she's never seen before. And it was like, and then she was just like, okay, anyways, I'm gonna go get ice cream. And I was like, wait, what else? I was like, did she say anything? She's like, I don't know, Mom, I want to go get my ice cream. Bye, and just walks away. I was like, no. But
Oh my
yeah, that
God.
one is wild. She's so powerful. But she's one of those ones that like fights her gifts because, you know, she's young.
She'll do tea leaf readings. That's where she should start her with.
Keely.
I see her doing that.
Oh, I'm excited for her.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna keep that right here, so I'll let her know.
Um, yeah, yeah, you make a good point. There's definitely a lot of like um social media presence. I like to say like the become a Reiki healer over the weekend. Right. And you can use that loosely. And I'm not saying that if there, and there's exceptions to everything. Again, there's not a
Uh-huh.
golden rule. Ultimately, I don't believe that you're learning anything. You're activating a cell of remembrance within your body.
Ooh.
And how good you become of like, for example, a Reiki master or a healing touch practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
just as an example, depends on how much you integrate that gift into your body. And integration to me means memorization. So we go into these spaces and we spark remembrance. Okay, that's their job. Now your job is to memorize that, right? What I've seen is like the lack of memorization, the lack of integration, um, and also the lack of evolvement. So I like to say like also like the part of the golden rule is like just because I do readings like this week, that doesn't mean it's not going to change next week. I give myself a lot of permission to receive and to change.
Yeah.
Because I have to. Like it's real life. Um and and so yes, there is discernment that we all have to practice, but I also think that that's why I say for me, I have my teachers that I didn't like at all, but they were still teachers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to like it, but it gives me enough information to know that do not enter here. So it keeps me in my lane.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess big picture there is that I believe that everyone has a role and and then it also like highlights like for you and I to be more proactive and have these conversations to be educational, right? It highlights that for me. And then as far as like mastering things in general, being in flow and like I'm not trying to master anything, but I do give myself permission to be the best at what I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
in this moment.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Be the best at what you're doing right now. And be
Yeah.
kind, because like I said, it's
Oh,
what did you get it?
no, but I was gonna say something about that.
Yeah.
Sorry, but do you want to finish?
No, go. I want to hear what you have to say.
So to go back to what you shared about that experience with people that give readings, and this is something that does bother me. Um, and I had someone just asked me that this something about this week, and I was like, what about like when you want to say something and it could be bad or um upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
And my rule is because I open every space when I saying, I'm not going to say anything that expired, nor am I going to say anything that you're not ready to receive. And that's the part where I say, I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm not trying to take on karma. Like I'm just trying to highlight in this now moment for you. So I never share something that I don't have the medicine for.
Oh,
Like I'm like, here's a poison and here's some options for you. Like, and they can vary. And anyone that's had readings with me knows that I do that. That I
wow.
give options from going to the beach to your by yourself to actually going to seeing someone, personally and a couple of things in between. Because for me, when I think of Halo, it has to be full circle moment for me. It's like I keep it a real circle.
Yeah.
And I think of like if I'm coming to someone, like I feel, and I don't know if you feel this way, but a lot of times when people come to me, it's almost like a last resort.
Mm,
Like, they've gone through different things and
yeah.
like, okay, this isn't helping me, this isn't helping me. And it's kind of like they're in the room, like if we're on Zoom and they're like, oh, I'm gonna be in the car because I don't want, my
Yeah.
husband to know or my mom. So it's very like hush hush. So I'm like, okay, well, if we're gonna do this, I want to have like real life solutions for you. Otherwise I don't say it.
Yeah. I feel that. I've realized that I give really hard. It's on me to give the really hard messages. And I think it's because I'm such a softie and I don't really have like a threatening kind of vibe. So when I talk to people and I have to say the stuff that's going to hurt their feelings, it's coming from someone that's like not really threatening in a way. So, and it's something that I've struggled with because I was such a people pleaser that it was affecting my readings. And I realized one day, because I was giving a friend of mine a reading, and it was a hard message, and I felt bad. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I didn't give her the message properly. I was trying to sugarcoat it. And then we went to my cousin's place after that. And I come from like, we all do what I do. Like, my family's so powerful. My grandmas were like, if I could be 2% of what they were, I would be so happy. They were curanderas. They were
Oh, I'm gonna
massive
cry.
healers. I know they
Oh
were,
my
oh my
God,
God.
I love this.
I'm gonna put a picture up here of see if I could stitch a picture in here for everyone to see them. God rest their souls. But they were amazing. So we go to my cousin's house, and this is my cousin's first time meeting this friend, and she just read her to filth, and she had zero remorse for this poor girl's like emotions for what she had to say. And then my friend looked at me and she was like, "Is that what you were trying to tell me at the park?" And I was like, and mind you, my cousin had no idea that we did a reading before. She just, if you come around my family, you're gonna get read up and down in some kind of way. And I was like, "Yeah, but I just felt really bad." And she was like, "If you ever hold your breath like that again and not say what spirit's telling you, don't do what you're doing then. Stop right now because you're not doing a service to anybody." And I was like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "I love you, but I have to let you know." And I was like, "Damn." I was like, "You're so right." So it goes, back to thinking about who you're getting a reading from. Because again, it's everywhere, and I love that it's everywhere. But knowing that when you're opening up to somebody in a reading, you're opening up to their energy completely. So, what is something that you would tell our audience if they're looking at getting a reading, if they never have, or if they already have, and any like future word for the wise?
Um, that's yeah, really good questions.
Like,
By the way, can I ask you something
mhm.
about that, what you just shared, just as a follow-up? So, how did you, like your first reading after you had that conversation, like how did you approach it differently?
With that one, I started the reading with I most likely will have some really hard messages, and your feelings most likely are going to get hurt. I'm nobody to judge. What I'm going to say here, I've probably done worse than you have, and I'm not God. So, what I'm saying to you, I say it with so much love, and I say it in a way so we could break down the calcification of the old energy because you've been sitting in that so long that it's just like this calcified hardness around your body. So let's break that down. It's not going to feel too good, but I promise if you apply what we're going to talk about and you take the inspired action, what could happen is going to blow your mind.
I love that. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, like to go to a reader that explains like what you just explained, that would be a green flag for me.
Hmm.
Um, I'm big on word of mouth. People that have had readings, like I believe like if the reason I learned tarot was because it was through word of mouth that I found out about this person and I ended up having a reading and then that person became my tarot teacher.
Mhm.
And so had that not happened, I wouldn't have known, right? So I do think that like we're communities and we're villages, and so that if you've had a reading with someone, you should like light someone else's candle and share that
Yeah.
information. So first and foremost, like word of mouth, like it's a green flag.
Mhm.
Um, Having someone explain the rules at the beginning of a reading, like these are my boundaries and this is what we're going to do, definitely something that needs to be like honored. Like
Mhm.
the reader should be able to tell you that. Um, and also too, like, and this is more on the person that's seeking the reading. Make sure you know what your intentions are. And I'm sure you come across this like they're like, I don't know, just tell me what you think. Okay, you're giving me a lot of access right now.
Yeah.
Like maybe not, maybe you shouldn't, maybe.
Mhm.
And so um I think it's important for people to have intentions before that. If you're going to have a reading for the 3 days before, have at least a very minimal meditation practice to set your intentions, to know what your breath feels like so that you can learn to separate.
Mhm.
Um, so, I mean, lighting a little tea light next to you during the reading, there's so many like little things like you could do
Mhm.
like that. I don't know if that's helpful. These are helpful
Yeah.
tools, but yeah, and and if they have social media, look them up. Like, what are they posting? Are they in alignment with you? Are they a good vibe? Like, we have the ability to research people now
Yeah.
ahead of time and get a good glimpse of them before you open your field up to them.
Yeah, and trusting your intuition too, because a lot of the markets that I've done, there'll be like literally like 10 to 20 readers at these markets. And people kind of just like walk around and they check all of us out. And I've done so many markets, and only two of them I've had like long list. All the rest of them, I'll see like a handful of people all day, and the other readers have like wait lists of people. And it's because of the way that I read, like where I go, we dive deep in the work that I do with people, the messages that I have. It's not for a lot of people. You have to be in a very specific place to be willing to talk with me and hear what they have to say for you, what I channel. So when it comes to your intuition and tapping into this space and people that are on the beginning of their spiritual journey, which I talk to a lot of people that are, they're like, they don't want to do readings and become a reader, but they want to be able to trust their discernment a little bit more. What are some tips and tricks you would give them?
To trusting their discernment,
Yeah, and
like
their
just in
intuition.
general outside of a reading, just like in
Yeah.
life. Um, so like let's say you're wanting to know a question like, is this a lot of people have love questions,
Hmm.
like 99.999%, right? That's great.
Yeah.
Love stuff. So let's go there.
Hmm.
Let me call y'all out. Um, Most of the time, if you're coming to a reader, it's a no. I'm not gonna lie. Like the
Thank
fact that
you.
you've already their names coming out of your mouth in my presence in this vicinity in this
Hmm.
environment, that most of the time it's
Yeah.
going to be like, okay, that's already a no, but let's go deeper than that. Like, let's say you're not ready to do that, and like I would assign numbers and say, okay, like if I see eights a lot, this is my question universe, this is my prayer. I might want to see eights and use random,
Hmm.
put them randomly in my vicinity, and that's going to be my yes. If I see T's and threes, that's a no.
Yeah.
And when you see that, believe it.
Hmm.
If you want to be like, okay, oh shoot, I did see T's and threes. Okay, I don't like that. Well, the thing is that your intuition and your discernment is going to break your heart most of the time. And that's what people really is like. I don't think they lack intuition, I think, or in discernment. I think they lack the ability to hold the emotion of what your intuition and your discernment is going to tell you. And so rather than put it in yes and no's, allow the universe to tell a story in front of you. When we think of numerology, frequencies, vibrations, we're all like in numbers. We're all surrounded in numbers. Like even like all our organs have a measurement to them that is a number. And so the universe wants to talk to you, but it's more like, are you ready to receive it? And so focus on giving yourself permission to receive the message.
Wow, that was massive. Oh my God. That's going to be the intro of the podcast. That was so big. It really is your emotional capacity. And something that I always refer back to is we're what, like 70, 80% water? Water is emotions, right? It's the cups in tarot. So you're going to tell me emotions aren't our biggest and most intense reason for being here on this earth? That's your, I have a whole tattoo about your emotions are your superpower. And we get a lot of slack growing up as kids, like you're too emotional, don't cry so much. But it's like, how about we honor those emotions and we dig a little bit deeper and we try to see why we're having those emotions and use them as a powerful tool to like light our purpose going forward. So I love that you said that, like we don't have the emotional capacity. And that leaks into different areas of life, whether it's love or work, because one thing we do really good as humans is we'll block our own blessings. And we'll be out here like, why isn't it happening? Why is this happening to me? And I tell my clients, you're literally asking the universe to remind you why you're in the spot that you're in versus being like, what tools do I need? What is the lesson here? How can I ascend out of here? The universe is very literal in my book. From what I've seen, it's not necessarily the words but the energy behind the words. So the energy is like remind me why I'm here. Okay, bet, let's remind her some more. It's a simple tweak in words.
I agree. So instead of saying like, why, stop and say, what is this teaching me?
Hmm. That's the
And
hard
then
part.
that way you can get your answer versus like another example of why.
Hmm.
Like, so yeah, that it's important, like exactly what you said. And going back to like the emotion and water and all of those things, and this is specifically for women, um, because we do have our cycles, you know, um, and they're tied to the moon. And just like how the moon goes dark and like lets go, like our bodies are channeled to do the same. And so one of the reasons like, women are, told they're like very emotional and like, yeah, we are. And it's because we have so much wisdom,
Hmm.
so much vocabulary that has no way to express itself. And because of that, we overthink and we overdo. And at the end of the day, it's like stepping back, like our emotions, our water is really a liquid library. And if we learn to work with it, I like to say worth with it. If we learn to work with it, then that doesn't necessarily take everything away. But now we understand how we're connected to the oceans, how we're
Hmm.
connected to the lakes, how we're connected to the rain, to the moon. And then we become part of an ecosystem. And we know that. And then we have a sense of belonging and understanding. And so, I mean, I can go on and on, but like to go to your example of the water, like yeah, fully support that emotional intelligence.
Oh my God. I love everything you just said. It's how I operate. Like I'm a Sag moon. I was born on a Monday, on a moon day. I'm a Scorpio. Like me and the moon, like she is me. I am her. I love her so
I
much.
love it.
So I go with my cycles. I'm always looking at like what's going on with the moon. I know it directly. And you think about it, we could go to science, we could go to biology. Look at the ocean. Like the moon controls the ocean. The moon controls again the water. And we're how much water? And you're gonna tell me the moon isn't gonna have some kind of effect
Right.
on us? It has to.
Yeah.
And the ocean is so beautiful, especially being out here. We're so blessed in San Diego. One of my things is I keep a little a little abalone shell next to my bed, and I'll put my little herbs in there, my little, whatnots in there. And when I sleep, it kind of pulls everything out because I go far in my astral spaces. Like when I'm unconscious, it gets wild. So I definitely pull a lot of that old that doesn't serve me, and I let it get in the abalone shell. Then I'll go to the ocean and I'll dump it all in the ocean with a prayer and an offering. And I'll ask Mother Ocean to repurpose it and bring me back. And about 2 weeks ago, Leo and I were at the beach. We went to Black's Beach, and I took all of my stuff and I dumped it in the ocean. I said my prayers, and then we walked further down the ocean. We sat there for a couple hours, and we come back, and exactly where I threw my offerings to the ocean, there was a brand new sand dollar that just came up at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, also. So like not morning time. And I looked down and I was like, oh my God. I was like, she works so quick. She like transmuted, she did her magic, and then she gave me a little offering back. So if you guys, anyone listening, if you have the opportunity, and you don't have to do a whole offering, but just go put your feet in the ocean and ask her to pull the energy.
I love that. And that brings me back to your first question, which was like if someone feels like stuck, right? They're in the rut and they don't know what to do. That's actually one of the things that I tell my clients is go walk if you're near the beach. I mean in San Diego, right? We're in San Diego,
Mhm.
so we have the privilege to do that easily. But I said like I tell them that the elements are there to remind us to be in flow and to be in transmutation. And no matter what you're feeling inside, the ocean's always going to be bigger than it. And so whenever I'm like, I'm feeling stuck, like I go and I just stand before the ocean and allow like it to be, I set the intention that my waters within me be reminded through the ocean, allowing it to flow to like mirror back to me what I'm supposed to do. And
Mhm.
that goes back to the ecosystem. Now I'm like feeling reconnected. I'm not all the way 100% better, but now I feel like I'm back and part of something.
Yeah, you're not kind of just untethered and floating out here.
Exactly.
And I think we
Exactly.
get a lot there as humans. We could get really untethered. And, I think it's a lot of it we get in our human mind. And again, the ego is a beautiful thing. It's not a bad thing. It gets a bad rep, but too much ego is involved and too much, what if I did this? What if I did that? And telling a new story to kind of tether us, because writing a new chapter, starting a new story. Sometimes we got to start whole new books. It's not even a new chapter. It's like it's a whole new book of life we got to write. So yeah, getting back to the idea of grounding is definitely key.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, everything you said. And like ego, I like to think of it as like when you're driving down the freeway and you swerve to avoid a car accident, that's the ego that's helping you
Hmm.
stay in alignment. When it becomes a bad habit is when you keep swerving the entire way. Now you're in your ego, right?
Yeah,
And that's like how I like to distinguish it.
I like that. That's a really good example. It's a fine balance, like you said. It boils down to being a fine balance.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love the shop. We didn't talk too much about the shop, so let's wrap it up with talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Halo House.
yeah.
The
Okay.
first time I went there, it's such a beautiful space. And I mean, you have so much stuff there. You have jewelry, you have clothing, you have crystals, you have events there, some of the funnest events I've been to. So tell us a little bit about Halo House.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, so Halo House is I like to say that it's where I get to pour like all my like ADD, ADHD like ideas. Like, like it's constant. Um, but it's been such a privilege to be able to have a space that Danielle's there with me. She was there with me from the beginning, and she handles the apothecary
Hmm.
and a lot of the crystal jewelry that we do in house. And then Virgil's there with us too, leading a lot of the events and being the shaman cornerstone of the frequency there. But so Halo House is a metaphysical boutique. It's in City Heights, intentionally open there because I felt like a lot of these metaphysical places were in areas that were more high end. And I wanted to be able to bring this type of frequency and energy into neighborhoods that wouldn't normally experience it. because I know that the moment everything that's done in that space is going to multiply around it. Um, and so that's why it's birthed there. But yeah, we have a collection of our own clothes. Like we have like chakras printed on the spine. We have chakras like root chakra printed on the bottom of socks to help you root.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everything is alchemized there with a lot of intention. A lot of worth goes into everything that and the way we present it.
Yeah.
So I wanted a space that when you walked in, it was already a healing. Like there's crystals in the walls, there's crystals underneath. When everything was taken, all the walls were taken down, I went in and put crystals everywhere. I gridded the entire space underneath Halo House too, because I wanted everybody, no matter what, would go in there and receive something, no matter what. And so that was the intention.
Yeah. And you feel it. You feel it when you walk in that space. It is such, it feels like you're genuinely walking into, and it is essentially a home. It looks like it used to be a house.
Yeah.
It feels like that. It feels like you're walking into like your friend's house, an extended family member's house, and you're going, it just has roots. It really has roots there. And I love that so much.
Thank you. And also like to piggyback on what you said about the events. We've had like so many brilliant people come through and hold sound baths, do readings. You've done readings there.
Mm-hmm.
Teach classes from palmistry to tea making to numerology. And then just really being able to highlight like brilliant people that have so much to share. Like it's part of like it's one of my favorite things that we do is to be able to hold a space for them to share that with the community.
And community is so big right now. It's an interesting space because, again, social media is so amazing because we could connect with people from across the world. We can find people. I met a really good friend of mine. We became best friends, and it turns out she grew up in the neighborhood where my grandpa's been living since the 60s. So
Oh my
we essentially like grew up in the same neighborhood because I was always out there in San Francisco. Never knew each other, met on TikTok randomly. So and so like my cousins grew up with her brother. Had no idea. But
God.
it's social media is beautiful in that sense, but I think we very much are lacking the one-on-one, the group community, the village, because we're storytelling creatures by nature. If you look at like cavemen, there's like pictographs. We learn
Mhm.
through stories, we learn through, what did I fail at that I could help you figure out how to do better. And it's the stories that we need to get in touch with. So I love that you guys have the events and everyone, I've been to quite a few of the events there. And it's only been good people, like everyone, and I'm super like so like a lot of people talk about social awkward. I'm like, I'm the one in the corner, like with my dog. I take my dog everywhere because I'm that socially awkward that I'm like, oh my God, I need to like something to like help me ground. And everyone there is so beautiful. I don't feel weird. I don't feel awkward. It's a very welcoming space. So you've done, and that's a reflection of you and your team, literally what you guys have built.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. Oh, I received. Thank you. That was
You're welcome.
very beautiful. I appreciate that so much. I really do. Thank you for saying that.
Of
Yeah,
course.
definitely very proud and definitely excited to continue to share in different ways and how we can.
Yeah, I
And,
love it.
and heal in circle, right? That's another thing of Halo, like how our ancestors did, like
Hmm.
to keep it real circles. Like let's sit across each other and share.
Yeah, help each other. It literally takes a village, whether you're raising a kid or just growing up on your own. And we're always growing up, whether we're 20, 30, 40, 50, we're always growing.
Always. Always.
This has been so amazing. We're gonna definitely tag all the socials below.
Okay.
I honestly have like a million more questions, but I'm not gonna take up too much of your time. So there was just so much goodness, and your light is so beautiful, and the space that you've created, and everything about you. So, I want to ask you if there was a movie to your life and there was a theme song, what would there be? What would it be?
The theme song.
Hmm.
Um, so not to my life because I feel like there's chapters, but in this chapter, there's this song called River Flows in You. It's a
Hmm.
piano song. And it's a melody that I've played in almost every single one of my healings since like 2018. 18. I think that's when I first heard that song. And whenever I hear that song, it's like a collection of all the stories that people have shared with me.
Mm.
And because Halo to me also means that every time someone shares with me, I get to learn to be that much more graceful.
Yeah.
And it's representative of that for me. So it's like this beautiful melody that it can make me cry sometimes and or it can empower me. And I love that it's called like river, what is a river flows in you, going
Mhm.
back to the water.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's the keys, so it's just piano.
It's just piano.
Oh my God. I'm gonna have to listen to that. I mean, we're gonna link it below too. So I need to make like a whole playlist of all the songs that I've asked everyone.
Oh,
I need to do that. I'll probably do
yes,
that.
by Yiruma, Yiruma, Yiruma. That's the pianist.
Okay. Oh my God. Okay, so we're gonna link that below. We're gonna link all your socials. And do
Okay.
you offer readings, like personal readings too?
I do. Right now, I am exclusively only doing readings versus healings.
Okay.
My hand is still healing. I had surgery
Oh
recently.
yeah. Yep, I remember.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I do in person at Halo and on Zoom.
Okay,
Like,
so we'll
yes.
link your personal Instagram too, so they
Okay.
can reach out if anyone wants
Yeah.
to reach out. And if you're in San Diego, definitely stop by and get a feel for this amazing space and check out their
Come
events.
visit us.
Yeah, thank you so much
Thank
for
you. Thank you for
jumping on,
helping
of
me
course.
break out my show.
Oh yeah, expansion is the theme. The expansion is this chapter for you. I feel it. So let this be the
Thank you,
beginning.
love. I
You're so
appreciate you.
welcome. All
All
right.
right.
Bye.